वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. So, in the first session we saw what is the topic we saw? Act you must, act we must. The second session was about the qualities of a leader and empowering. That little portion I didn't cover. Empowering is emotional power. EM is emotion. Any leader, or anybody for that matter, can achieve anything only when there is an emotional connection between himself, herself, and what he or she wants to achieve. Because most of our decisions are influenced by emotions. Hardly any of our decisions are made out of mere intellectual thinking. Whether you want to be in this profession or that profession, or you want to eat that food or this food, whether you want to go for this movie or that movie, all are decided by emotions. How you feel about it. Is it not? And therefore, a leader should make the people whom he wants to influence have the same emotion that he has, she has, towards what he wants to achieve. That's how great masters, even as we saw just in the previous session, whether Hitler or Lincoln or Martin Luther King, Gandhi or Vivekananda or Steve or Bill Gates, they have great amount of emotional connection with what he or she wanted to achieve. Even Mother Teresa for that matter. So that is emotional power. The very word emotion, if you know, the meaning of emotion is emotion. That which moves you. So when I have an emotion about something, I get moved by that. Somehow my heart starts moving towards that. I feel connected to it. That is what is called emotion. So when the emotions are not there for something, you may not put that much of effort towards that. Don't you say, oh, my heart is not in that. Meaning what? I do not have the feeling for it. So the same way, a person who wants to have best coming out of himself, oneself, must have their emotions towards it. What do we mean by that? Why we create an emotion about something? It is as simple as how often you think about it. If you say, I am friends with this person whom I talk to only once in a month, then it is not a real relationship. Nowadays you have Facebook. At least you see the person again and again. So, the connection is because of consistency. Connection is because of consecutively continuously you are moving towards that. So your friend, you say, is my best friend. That means you are talking to him or her very often, then only that person is considered much closer to you. Similarly, if you have a goal or a thing that you want to achieve, that needs to be in your psyche most of the time. It should have the priority. Not obsession. I would not say obsession. That's a very negative word. But that should be your priority thinking. Then only that will become an inspiration, or that will become your very ingredient of empowerment. That is why you will see, giving a simple example, when a particular company wants to make a product an important part of your life, they keep on putting it in front of you again and again, right? Whether it's a pizza or a car or iPad or iPhone, The ad has to come again and again and again. Why? Because you should not forget it. Samsung Galaxy 3. Ding. Two people. Ding. I am just passing on my playlist to you. So they go on showing it. Why? Because you must not forget. That is a marketing technique. Go on, repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. So at the top of your psyche, it should remain. Prior to when you go to a shop, you should look for that. Right? When you want to eat, that thought, pizza should come to your mind. So they also work with your emotion. So empowerment is emotional power. Emotional power is possible when you get connected. And connection takes place only when that is in your priority list. And the priority takes place only when you consistently think about it. So a leader should never be ashamed to talk to his people about what he wants to achieve. Constantly, continuously. You should drive it home. You should not forget. So sometimes it looks so passionate, so intense, but that's what he wants. He wants everyone to think the way he want them to think. So you see all great masters, great people in every field, they are consistently on their job. They do day and night. Alright? So that's the part which I did not complete yesterday, the last session. Now comes the portion where Arjuna asked this question, why is that people commit blunders, sins, knowingly? Unknowingly somebody does, it's a different thing, but knowingly why? Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi vashneya baladiva niyojita. Even though they don't like it, but they do it. Why? So Krishna says, what a wonderful question you asked. He says, there are two things which are there in your personality which is making you commit sin or do wrong things in spite of you not wanting it. He says, Kam or Krodha. Kama means desire, Krodha is anger. These two are those which can impel anybody, push anybody to do wrong things. Any criminal, if you ask, why did you commit a crime? Either he will say, because of revenge or because I wanted it. I wanted it and I do not know how to get it because there is no other avenue, so I went ahead. So one judge was asking this thief, why did you go and steal from that shop? My wife wanted it. My wife wanted that garment. But you went 3 times, 3 days consecutively. How is that? She wanted to change it. She didn't like first time. She went and changed it again. So, what makes him go? Because I do not have any other way to get it. Go and steal it. So, crime can be committed only for 2 reasons. Ask the lawyer. Either desire, intense desire, or out of anger. These are the 2. So, Krishna, at least 6,000 years back, analyzed this. Kama esha, Krodha esha. This is anger, desire and anger. And interestingly, what we find in the analysis is, there cannot be anger if there is no desire. Think of it. Can you get angry on somebody whom you do not even know? You may get upset a little bit, but not anger. Anger is caused by identification. Let us say when you walk into this room, everything is lying down here. Will you ever get upset about it? No, but I do. Because I think this is a place where, see that the way they have marched this, see that. I get very upset because I like it not to be like this. But you look at it, it's okay, Swamiji, small children after all. I cannot do that. So, it is identification. It is a room that should be nice. That is my identification. And then they scratch it all over the place. I don't like it. I'm angry. So you go and stay in a hotel room, for example, one day, and things are not, good. One day it doesn't matter. So you don't bother about it. But if I am the owner of the place, then I will get very upset. Isn't that true? If you are walking on the road and somebody says, "Hey fool, come here." What do? "Oh, dare you can call me fool?" I didn't call you, but if you are a fool, you just respond to it. So identification, that makes you angry. So that desire that makes you identify is the cause. So basically, kama means desire. So I used to tell people, how many of you know Hindi? All of you know, very good. You don't know? Thoda thoda. That much enough. I only also know thoda thoda only. तोड़ने का नहीं आता है, थोड़ा आता है. So, if you ask somebody, why you didn't come for the youth camp yesterday, tomorrow you ask them. बहुत काम था. What does it mean? Lot of work, right? Hindi में बहुत काम था means lot of work. In Sanskrit, काम means desire. So when you say बहुत काम, meaning what? I have too many desires. So in morning only we saw, it is a desire which is the cause of action. IDA, remember? बहुत काम. I have too many desires, too much of things to do.
Just if someone you quickly clarify, in the previous sloka it says, why does man commit sin against his wishes? So I don't understand, if someone's acting against their wishes, how is that still...
Against the wish means he knows that it is wrong, still he does that. Anichan means even though he doesn't want, but something pushing him. Doesn't want means what? Nobody wants to consciously commit crime and go to jail, right? But he cannot help it at that point. So two things are the cause. One is intense desire and second is the anger. So bahut kamta means I have too many desires. So somebody said, bahut kamta, जिसके कारण बहुत काम था, जिसके कारण मैं मन काम नहीं था. English काम. So because of Sanskrit काम, I have Hindi काम and therefore no English काम. Right? So he says, desire and anger. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhava. They are born out of extroverted tendency. Mahashano means it is the greatest eater of you. Ashana means that which devours you. Mahapapma, great sinner, Vidyenam iha vairinam. They are the biggest enemy of your life. Understand, the biggest enemy of your life is sitting inside you. So Krishna suddenly changes the focus. He says, Arjuna, you are not fighting with the battle outside. You are fighting with the battle inside. The desire and anger which are sitting in your heart are the biggest enemies you have to conquer. So when I take up any action, as you know, what was that which makes me get into an action? Desire, right? Now, can I conquer desire by allowing the desire to engage as action? Think about it. If cause of action is desire, effect is action. By action, can I conquer desire? Can effect ever destroy the cause? Is it possible? Because effect is nothing but, remember Gurudev's logic of spirituality. Effect is nothing but cause in a different form. So, action being caused by desire, can action ever conquer desire? Cannot, because it cannot survive without the cause. Clear? So action cannot conquer the desire. Only karma, yoga can conquer it. Meaning that action done not to increase the desire but to decrease it. That is the only way you can come out of it. Of course, the easiest method than that direct method is to remove the ignorance. That's the path of knowledge. You can go and directly remove the ignorance. Then, ignorance is not there, desire will not be there, action will not come. So, but none of us are eligible, qualified for that. Why? Because we have too many things in our head. Too many desires. Too many things we want. So then action is given a different treatment. Action done with not an intention to increase desire, but to exhaust desire. How do you do that? Act, but don't expect. That is the way to conquer it. Because desire gets multiplied by acting with expectation. So what, Swamiji? How can you act without expectation? Tell me that. Huh? Is it possible to act without expectation? No. You're right. We act because we expect. Right? You are all here expecting me to complete sometime. If you don't expect that, you will not be here. One person went on talking and talking and talking. So people got really exhausted, but he went on. So then finally he completed. So the organizer said, we gave you 1 hour to speak, you spoke for 5 hours. Yeah, but I didn't have the watch. But you had a calendar. That's even. Another joke was given, because take it in the right spirit. Huh? So, I'm not a male chauvinist. Anyway. So he was, this fellow was about to talk, deliver a talk, and then he was about to get up, and then he suddenly stopped. So the people asked, what happened? I forgot to bring my denture, My denture, I forgot to bring, I cannot talk. Can I go and get it from your home? Yeah, go ahead, and this is the direction to my house. So that fellow went, and then they managed the show for a while, and then they brought the denture, and he put it on and started. He went on and on and on and on and on. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. So somehow they stopped him. Oh my God. Why you were given only 1 hour, you went on for 2-3 hours? You made the mistake. What did the mistake? You brought my wife's denture, then what can I do? Anyway, sorry for that. So, action is product of desire. But karma yoga is that which is acting without expectation. Now, the question is, can we act ever without expectation? Yes and no. Okay, well let me see both. Can we act without expectation? No. Why? Because the very fact what prompts me to act is some expectation. Without that. Okay. Now the thing is, what you expect, can you expand? Krishna says, you say that I am doing this for this purpose. Ask this question, is it for you only or for more people? Is it selfish or selfless? It is egocentric or it is for everybody to share? The moment you start expanding your expectation, meaning whatever I want to achieve is not only for me, it is for maximum number of people. Then your expectation goes down. It is like this. You take a pinch of salt and put it in a small container of water and then drink it. It will be salty. If you take it in a huge bowl and put the same amount of salt, it won't be salty. Why? It is spread. So the ego, which expects all the time, when it is given a larger scope of work, it disappears. Otherwise, no great master would be working in this world. All great spiritual masters and great people worked in the same world where you and I are working. If they were not engaging in the world, because action means expectation, if they were not expecting, they would not be here they would not have showed us the way. Whether it is Swami Chinmayananda or Vivekananda or Mother Teresa or anybody else, who anywhere other field, they worked like you and I, but they worked with a greater vision. Why? Because their expectation expanded. I'm not doing it for this, I'm doing for everyone. Just like the salt that is put in the bowl, which is the larger the bowl, lesser will be that salty taste, saline. So in the same way, the ego gets dissipated in the same field where you work, but maximize your that expectation should be shared with the maximum number of people. That is, the result has to be shared. So that's why he says, Loka sangramahe evapi sankartam kartum arhasi. Sampashyan kartum arhasi. So when you work in this world, keep the entire society in mind. Loka sangram means keep the maximum people as your scope. Then your work will not increase your desire, it will decrease it. And that is how you conquer. So Krishna doesn't say that your desire and anger is not indestructible. They can be destroyed. They are the inner enemies. So long as it is narrow, you become very egoistic, you are narrow-minded, and you will not be able to accommodate anybody else in your life. Where you start expanding it, your vision becomes more, your scope has become more and more, your sharing your results will become larger and larger. Then you will find that your action is a seva. It's a service. See, if you are doing something after I tell you, you are a servant. If you are doing something without I tell you, it is a seva. If you don't do even after I tell you, you are volunteer. Voluntarily not doing it. So you decide whether you want to be a servant or a sevak or a volunteer.
What's a sevak?
Sevak is a seva, service.
S-A-V-A-K?
No, sevak is a person who does the seva. Seva means to do even without being told.
Seva.
Mm-hmm. So like when you are growing up, your mom cooked you breakfast and lunch and dinner, right? She did it because you told her to do so?
No. Yeah. It was just there.
It's there.
Yeah.
It is done because you need it and she knows it. You need every day, don't say, Mom, remember what? Breakfast, remember lunch, remember dinner. No. She knew that you need it and then it was there. Whether you looked for it or wanted it or not, that it was given to you. Right? That is called seva. When you go to work and then your assistant there, he will not do unless you tell him. Because he's paid. So that is servant, paid servant. And you come to a place where like a place where a lot of people are doing things, and if I tell them, they just don't do it. Then I know they are volunteers. Volunteer means if I wish, I will do it. If I don't wish, I don't do it. It's not volunteer. Anyway, so the point is here, by seva, you destroy your ego. And when the ego, along with the desire, destroyed, then you are available for higher knowledge, to discover inner happiness. So he says, Arjuna says, all right, this is very convincing, all right. Where do I begin? Where do I begin this process of conquering my enemies like Kam and Krodh, and desire and anger? So Krishna says, first thing, Tasmat tvamindriyan yado niyamya baradarshava papmanam prajahihyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. You begin by, first thing, have mastery over your senses. Because it is the senses which are all the vehicles of your desires. Eyes want to see something, ears want to listen to something, nose want to smell something, taste want to taste something. Because they are all the vehicles of your desire. Say like, for example, when you go to the state of sleep, you don't desire anything. Why? Your channels are cut. Eyes are not seeing, none of the sense organs are active. Right? So you are not disturbed by the world at all. It is not that world has disappeared. You have you shut down your shop. All your shops are windows down. Right? The window is meant for what? The light and the air to come in. Right? When you shut all that, light won't come, air won't come. In the same way, these are all called mindos, not windows. Mindos. Because through this only, mind gets disturbed. Correct or not? Mind is disturbed by what is seen, what is heard, what is smelled, what is touched, what is tasted and what is touched. Shut down the mindos. So, is it easy? No, it's not easy. Because we have to live in this world. You cannot just close your eyes and walk, or ears and plugged and walk. No. Now, when you go to sleep, you close your eyes, right? I hope. Now, will you close your ears? Some of you already, most of the time. Dum, 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 dum. Do you close your nose when you go to sleep?
No.
When you close your, of course, mouth you close, I think. So, you don't need to close your eyes or nose. I mean, you don't need to close. But if your mind is withdrawn, then obviously, eyes don't see, ears don't listen, right? Some people keep the eyes and open and sleep. Some of you are doing right now already. So, some people keep their eyes open and sleep. But if they are sleeping, if you stand in front of them also, they don't see it. Why? Mind is withdrawn. Correct? So, conquering the senses means conquer the mind. Meaning, keep the mind away from them. Indriyani adav niyamya bharadas. That's why he says, first conquer the senses. And conquering the senses is possible only when you conquer the mind. See, sometimes when you are watching some movie or reading a book, Hariputra. You know what is Hariputra? Harry Potter. So at that time, anybody calls you, you will not pay attention. Why? Your mind is focused on one thing. You are watching a movie. Somebody is calling, your mom calling, come on, get up, time for dinner. One man said to his wife, when I come to a stage when I stay like a vegetable, not responding to you, not reacting to whatever you say, unplug me. I don't want to live anymore. She went and unplugged the TV. Why? Because when you're watching TV, you are in that vegetable state. You are not listening to me. One lady, she went to shop, Black Friday shopping. So when she was about to pay, that person at the counter saw that she has a remote in her bag. Remote? TV remote. See, he looked at it and said, he was amused. Why are you carrying TV remote? Did you buy it here? No. This is from home. Oh, why are you carrying it? I asked my husband to come for shopping with me. And he said no. The only way to persecute him is to remove this remote and bring it with me. Now he's searching all over the place. So, when you are engrossed in watching a TV or something, you are shut down everywhere. Right? Your eyes are open, ears are open, but you don't listen. Why? Your mind is withdrawn. So he says, Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya parammanah. It's a very interesting analysis. Objects do not attract you. You get attracted to objects. Correct or not? Think about it. It is not the rows of bottles that are there on the shop. I was in one airport recently, and it's, I think, Seoul or something, yeah. So the early morning flight, so next flight was a little late, so we just went for walking inside the airport. Then there was a place it is written, duty free. It's written duty free. So, and it was shut, and the glass door was, so I put my ears and looked at what is there inside that. Lot of liquor bottles. So the person next to me, I said, what, Swamiji, what are you saying? No, I am saying, what what a truth is there in this statement. What? When you are spiritual, there is no duty at all for you. When you are spiritual, there is no duty for you. There is nothing to do in this world. You didn't understand first. So when you become spiritual, Christmas party, duty free. You don't need to do anything anymore. But the point is, it is not the bottles of liquor that is attracting you. I mean, it is not the bottles of liquor that is asking you, come on, drink me. It is my mind through the senses getting attracted, right? It's not the tongue wants this liquor, it is the mind that wants the liquor. So, if you want to it's not that you need to get the world, get out of the world, get rid of the world. If you master your senses, it doesn't matter whatever is there in front of you. If I am a teetotaler, I am, don't worry about it. So, then, if there are rows of liquors that are there, I am not interested. Because it cannot affect me anyway. Because I am not interested. So, even if you keep the most attractive bottle of liquor, most sophisticated, most, costly, it doesn't have any effect on me. So it is because it is not the liquor bottle that is attractive, it is the mind. So conquer the world through conquering the senses, conquer the senses through conquer the mind. Your desire will be active only when you are weak about it. Now, how do I conquer the mind? By conquering the intellect. Your thinking should be right, not emoting. Thinking. I'll give you best example. One place where I was invited for to eat. That's the example I can give you. Last time also I did the same thing. So when I went there, after that she said, I'm going to cook for you. 1 hour. Looked around. There was a plate full of beautiful fruits, mangoes, apples, and bananas. Said, okay, anyway, it will take an hour for this lady to cook. Let me eat this mango at least. I took the mango. Oh, so bitter. It was wax. Wax mango. I took it, made sure my teeth impressions are not there in that. Made it. Put it back. Now, Parama Vairagya. Now, even if you give me $1 million, I will not eat that. Why? I know that it is not mango. Right? Even though it look like mango, but I will not eat it. In the same way, when I know that real happiness is not there in the objects, you will never go there. That requires thinking. Our Gurudev used to say, a person who wakes up in the morning, wakes up and then gets ready and then he goes rush to the office, and as soon as he reaches the office, the mind starts coffee. The mind's agitation starts. I want coffee. So what he does is he goes to the coffee corner, picks up the cup and one sip and keeps it there. After that it is getting cold. Because that one sip of coffee has already quietened the mind. The thought, I want coffee is over. So it is the demand of the thought that makes us go for the object. Once you give there, the thought ceases to exist. Once the thought is not there, your mind is calm. The calmness of the mind is achieved not by the object, but the cessation of thought. Think about it. If you close your eyes and think what was agitating you yesterday or 5 days back or 1 month back or 10 days back or 10 months back, is not there right now. Why? That thought which was so intense at that time is not there now. At that moment you do not know how to get out of that thought. But now you have moved on, whether you either you accepted that thought or you are not able to accept, whatever it is, you moved on. Then the thought is no more. Once in a while it may come. So, if you are able to face that agitating thought squarely on its face, what are you here to disturb me here for? It will just disappear. When we do not inquire, we get caught up in that. It's like a whirlpool. It will keep spinning. It will keep spinning again and again and again and again. So, that's the reason why it is said, conquer the world by conquer the senses by conquer the mind by thinking. But intellect is also an impediment. So Krishna says, conquer the intellect by knowing Him, knowing God. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param manaha manasastu parabuddhihi yo buddhe paratastu saha. Once you know the Lord within, even intellect is smaller than that. For why you say that? Because intellectually you can never realize God. You can go near, but not there. Because it is God's presence in our heart is not an intellectual idea. It's a fact, it's a reality, and not a mere concept. Like for example, there is this light you see. Light here I see in the ground. I know if there is a light here, there must be a bulb of light there, lamp there, right? When I look up, then I know this is effect, that is the cause, right? Now I know this area cannot be light, it cannot be lit up unless there must be a bulb there, okay? So the bulb is the cause and the light is an effect. Fine. Bulb cannot be without the filament. The filaments are glowing, therefore the bulb is glowing. Bulb is glowing, therefore this frame is glowing. This is glowing, therefore this is there. So, what is the cause of this light? Not this, not the bulb, the filament. Okay. The filament cannot be glowing unless there is a power. A current that is passing through here. Fine. Do you see it? Do you see it? You have a doubt? Put your hand inside that. Direct experience. After that you will never speak. If you are surviving, you will speak. And if you don't, and there will be, see, if you don't survive, you don't need to make any statement. If you survive, you will definitely make a statement. Yes, true, there is power. In the same way, the masters have said that beyond the intellect, beyond the rational mind or the intellect, beyond all the logic is the presence. Which presently I do not know. Presently I don't see it. But without whose presence I cannot be there. You take a plant outside, go outside and take a small plant which is alive. Any way you cut it, you will not find life there. Where exactly is the life in the plant? Can you see it? You will never see it. But is it not you say that plant is alive? How do you know? Because leaves are coming and flower is there and then it is growing. What makes it grow? Oh, somebody is pushing it from below. Nobody is pushing it from below. Take the root over and you will see nothing there. But there is life. You can't see it. So that which is beyond the ken of the intellect is the life, the presence, the Lord. If you know Him, then you can conquer the intellect. Once you conquer the intellect, you can conquer the mind, the senses and the world. So Krishna says, Arjuna, finally you should reach there. That is the inner battle you have to win. And you can. But the external battle which I am asking you to win is to make your mind available to yourself. So long as you have the revengeful attitude about, Duryodhana and then Karna and then Drona and all other people there, and you want to run away from the battlefield, you are not going to achieve anything. So you may probably go away saying that I don't want to fight with my own people and go to the forest and sit down quietly. What's going to happen in your mind? Useless. Duryodhana is useless. He took away my land and my people and then is there sitting and ruling. I don't know what to do. Your mind will be only cursing yourself. As I said, you are not going to kill the person, you are going to kill the principle. The principle for which they are standing there to fight. That is what you are fighting with. So therefore, don't get angry and upset and revengeful about Karna or Duryodhan or anybody there. But their principle is wrong. And I explained to you what it means. So, conquer the mind through properly engaging in this world. So, make your life, make your karma yoga. Meaning, it is not acting out of desire, it is there acting to conquer desire. And that is possible only when you move the expectation to expand the expectation. I'm not doing it for my own purpose. I'm doing it for the benefit of everyone. By which you are, everyone means what? Everyone means God. You know, when we chant Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, you know what is the meaning? Let all of them be happy. Who are the all of them? Tell me. Who are the people whom you say all? Who are those people? Let everyone be happy. Everyone means what? Including me. Correct? Don't say everyone except me. Be happy. I'm saying everyone be happy means I'm included. Everybody is included. Everybody is included means the whole world is included. All living beings are included. That is called God. See, when you are saluting in front of this flag on July 4th, you're not saluting to the flag, you're saluting to the nation. The country that has become free. You are saluting to the aspirations of the people of this country. So the flag represents everyone, all the 50 states, all the people in the world, in the country, right? It's only symbol. In the same way, when you say, I am not doing it for this purpose, I am expanding, to what extent you have to expand? Maximum, which means to God. So what are you doing and why are you doing? It's for Him I am doing. Why? Because I am grateful to Him. Because He gave me a chance to work. He gave me a chance to do what I am doing. So my action is dedicated to the Lord. That is the maximum I can expand. Because He is omnipresent, omnipotent. So therefore Krishna says, don't do it for anybody else, do it for me. You do the war for whom? For me. For my sake you fight, O Arjuna. Not for revengefulness, not for anger, to appease your anger, not for appease your frustration. You are doing it for me. So Karma Yoga essentially is devotion in action. If you don't have the devotion, the action will not be Karma Yoga. When you are dedicating your action to the Lord, that expression of your love for the Lord, expression of your devotion to the Lord is called Karma Yoga. Because you are not doing for this or that person, you are doing for the entirety, the whole universe. That's why such great masters, when they have reached the state of dedicating everything to God, they go beyond the barriers of religion, caste, color, creed, sex, all various denominations or anything else. They just say, it is for God I am doing, therefore I don't care about what religion you belong, what caste and color and creed you belong, I don't care about it. Because I do it for God. Ultimately, Karma Yoga is love in action. Gurudev used to say that when love is start expressing as action, then you are a sevak. You are a person who does the seva. Otherwise, you are just a servant. If you are doing it for money, you are a servant. If you are doing it because you are commitment, then you are only a volunteer. But if you are doing it out of love, you are a sevak. It's like I gave the example. Your mother is doing to making sure that you have the food and other things out of love for you. That is called seva. If she is doing, I have to bring this same thing. Useless fellow. Anyway, eat. Then it is a commitment. It's an obligation. I'm paid. Therefore, one boy used to always mess up his room. It's a teenager. So the mother said, this fellow is not going anywhere. He has to be taught a lesson. So she put a note there. After cleaning the room, she said, every time I pick up any item from the floor, you have to pay 10 cents for each item to me. So next week when she was cleaning, there was a $2 bill there. Well, not $2, $5 bill was there. And there is a note. Mom, keep it up. That's very bad. Do it out of love, then it is seva. Do it for money, it is servant. And do it because you are obliged to do that, volunteer. And then there is your choice to do or not to do. I'm not obliged to do it. Okay, so that's where Krishna concludes saying that, understand finally, you have to reach that which is beyond the intellect. Evam buddhe param buddhva samstapya atmanam atmana jahishatrum mahabahu kamarupam durasadam. So by dedicating your action to God, destroy the inner enemy called desire. Then you are ready for next step of meditation. When the mind has become quiet, it doesn't anymore become victim of desires, then action will slowly cease to be. Once the action ceases to be, then you are ready for meditation. Until then, no. Any questions? This is a question time.
Is there any questions in there?
Empty. No questions. Very good.